Welcome back, fellow armchair generals, and good morning, Lawless. He's a viewer who routinely watches every morning the Hearts of Iron 3 series. So just wanted to say good morning to you and hope you have a good day today. Of course, this is Gamer1745 here with my continuing playthrough of Hearts of Iron 3 with Black Ice 9.11, and of course, yes, we are still playing as Japan, as things said. Now, also from another viewer, Jeff, who posts a lot, he's a hero in the amount of posts, he suggested a couple of things, sort of a reverse strategy of what I sometimes do. I normally thinking of doing it as, well, sometimes I do send ships over to the Pacific subs particularly, but I often send subs to the Mediterranean. He's suggesting I send some subs to the Baltic Sea now in this area to sort of try to get some reconnaissance and whatnot here for on Finland to maybe encourage German invasion, although I think it's probably too late now, because we any day now I'm expecting a Soviet invasion. But I did sort of think, yeah, sending over a group of coastal submarines, since they don't have too much range, they can get here, but just sort of operating somewhere around here. Yeah, I have another group here. I think I will send these to the Mediterranean while I can. Chayev, that's the port for Rome. Sorry. And we can still use the Suez Canal because we are still neutral. Okay, so they're going there. And also getting ready, I'm sending some headquarters troops there. We'll be sending some more units once some of these guys get back to be ready to invade. I don't, obviously I can look here and go, where's range, and see this range number. 2,700 kilometers, but I quite honestly don't know how far this range is. I don't have a good, there is not a good thing that adjusts down here to tell me range and what it thinks. So I don't know how quickly we'll be able to get to coming into here, but meaning don't know if I have a fleet ready to go, whether I can invade direct. I doubt, but maybe midway and then going out for Sunset Beach first and do the landing there. So that's what I'm looking at there, and then I'm also going to send some forces down here because I want to knock out this quickly and early so they can't send in forces there. They can obviously invade, but they can't, just transport forces here and then start invading around here. And I also want to do that on these other islands too. I have definitely seen what appears to be, I've seen and appears, yeah, America be aggressive in the Pacific at times, but they seem to be narrowly focused on their territory, not the Philippines, but their territory, and then Japanese islands directly, which isn't a bad strategy if you can knock out these islands and, put 10 really good tank divisions right into Tokyo and take that, and then, spread out from there, conquering the Japanese home islands. You sort of win the war, as it were. We could look at, victory points and to see if exiled Japan controlling China and other places, including the Philippines and all down here, is enough to keep it in some semblance of operations. I don't know, especially since it can't, I don't think, deploy units outside of the home island. So, you know, it's not a bad strategy, quite honestly. But of course, if we, well, and see, this is the point. If we take these little islands down, one, I don't have to garrison them beyond, you know, small garrisons, because they only have so much invasion range. That's part of it. The other part is, if I can knock these islands down, probably, not guaranteed, I would love to see it happen the otherwise, but probably they won't be sending too many forces down to Australia to help the British controlled islands out here. They'll be focusing on trying to retake here. So yeah, garrisons here to hold this would be a very real thing. And also, of course, holding this with air bases here could really help defeat American doomstacks. Okay, engineers upgrade. Is that one of these? Yes, I think it was here. Okay, so that's done. And artillery carriage designs have improved, which is really, quite honestly, well, range finding, yeah, that improves over time. Artillery barrel and ammunition. I can't hardly think of too much of that improving. The big sort of super improvement that happens during the war is proximity fuses for anti-aircraft, of course, but that, I think, is handled right down here. So, because Gun Jesus, or otherwise known as Ian from Forgotten Weapons, you should subscribe to that channel if you haven't already, if you're interested in historical firearms. Well, they also do modern stuff too, but it's more historical type stuff at all. Because he's had access to a bunch of Thompson submachine guns recently, because he's gotten known and worked with a few auction houses, other auction houses are allowing him to come in, because when major collections go on auction, don't know if you know this, they often spend 6 months to maybe even a year that the auction house will like get a major collection, not just some random guns or random paintings or random postage stamps or whatever is worthy of auctioning off, but they'll get it, and then they photograph everything. I do mean everything in nice conditions, and put out a catalog, which you have to pay for, unfortunately. Some do the stuff online, but I don't know how much that's going. I have a small collection of catalogs. I love auction catalogs because they're a really nice source, including because they have expected sale pricing on things. So, and good catalogs have good images to see authenticity and things. Because I don't know if this is a humble brag or just informing you. Years in the past, there was a guy who wrote a really nice book on medals, not the kind that you pin on your chest for bravery and war. This actually predates that. They used to make round, big coin-like medals to commemorate. They're sort of, I guess, commemorative medals generally, but they also had other purposes too. And so this was a tangible object that in the 18th century and before, they used to be very popular. And this one guy wrote a book on Jacobite medals, I think is going to be the foundation standard of the book on that, and I've got a copy of the book. But then once he was done with that, it was one of the big English companies, I think Sotheby's, I forget which. He put his collection of medals, because literally hundreds of them, up for auction. So this was a major auction in London at the time on this, and probably going to be one of the only and biggest single collection sort of sale. And collecting is a very interesting hobby. I collect things. Collecting has several assets. One, it as you can tell, digging into history. Collectors love to dig into history. Either they get an object, and then, well, what is this object? Well, they know it's a helmet, or it's a metal, or whatever. But what metal is it? Why was it issued? And they dig into it. And maybe does it have an inscription on the back to know who it was given to, or whatever. And so collectors love to dig into history. So having the tangible object is part of it, but part of it is digging into history. Part of it is just the, if you will, collecting. And you can sort of break that word up into several things, but going out and finding and getting a hold of and acquiring items. And yeah, it could maybe sort of sound like greed at times, but because you do have a bit of an avarice there, but it's sort of the hunt. What is it? American Pickers on A&E here in the U.S. is a good example of. Now these guys are mostly going to resell everything they do. So they love the history. They love getting all this stuff, but then they put it up. So they're not. They do have. I do understand. They do have some collections of their own that they do keep, but that isn't a true collector. It's part of the idea, but a true collector wants to amass a collection of things. Generally speaking, he who dies with the most toys, or whatever the old thing, he dies with the most wins. So you generally don't necessarily want to sell off it if you're a true collector. Not that you won't trade, not that you won't sell anything, especially if you get something better. If you like. Now, I've known one guy who was a major Luger collector way back then, but he sold out sort of at the right time and moved over to collecting single action army Colts, the cowboy Colts and stuff. And so, he's collected that, collected Lugers for a long time, moved to collecting something else. And so he really wasn't interested in selling any of his, when I knew him, any of his Colt single action armies. He had multiples of, the same gun, because he found good deals and whatnot. And those were mostly kept for trading purposes, so not, and then they were, similar enough to other ones. They didn't have enough of it. They didn't have personal stories, because they just bought at a gun show or bought wherever. So there was no story with them, and they weren't personalized enough. So they're just a gun, and he already has one from that, because he had, like, not just every model, like every year of single action armies and whatnot. And so, get 2 or 3 from the same, barrel length, same year, same whatever. And he doesn't, because he did buy and sell other firearms as opportunities happened. But, his main collection, he hooked me up with lots of good stuff. Man, I got a lot of stuff from him for my collection. Not his single action armies, but other things. So, he did buy and sell guns, so he did make a profit, but his collection was, and he's also other old cowboy and American Civil War type firearms and things like that. And so he wasn't interested in selling these guns, because he didn't need, even the multiples, he didn't need the money. But sometimes you got other collectors who have something that they sort of like, and they don't need the money either, but maybe you've got something in your collection that they don't have, to fill a hole. So that's sort of a real collector. So, but I understand either age or other things that you get to maybe go, okay, time to get rid of your collection. I can understand that. So this, though sometimes collectors, either with enough money or like these Jacobite medals, maybe he just, and I totally understand. I have a lot of money worth of medals here. I want to cash out. I, want to, have money for my retirement or whatever. I totally get that. And an auction is, especially for something like that, is probably the best way to realize the most amount of money on that. And so, yeah, I did. I think I ended up with, what was it, 3 medals from the auction. And I didn't go to it. I would have loved to. It was at the time that it happened. I wasn't in Britain, but I had been in Britain when sort of the thing was announced, and I got a hold of the catalog, and just at that time through the old mail, put in some bids on some sealed bids on some of the medals, and I got a few of the ones that I wanted. So I have a few stuff, bronze medals from the 18th century and stuff like that. So collecting medals. Catalogs. They're auction catalogs. Getting back to this, sorry, how I went down the rabbit hole. Are really good sources of information, because like I've got both the book that he wrote and the catalog of all of the medals that went up for sale. I don't know, and sometimes it's hard to get out of them price lists for what they did actually sell for, and it can really, for your purposes, to know what the value of things and look up, because sometimes, I've got this medal and it has Jacobus Rex whatever, but what is it? Well, we know it's a King James medal, but which one? What is it? So you have catalogs to go through to sign. That's the one that was done in 1740. You can see it's different than the one that was done in 1750. That's similar, but you can see the changes here. So you can really zero in to know what they are. So catalogs are great, whether it's for like uniforms, guns, old medals, or plowshares, or whatever you may want to collect. Catalog. So Gun Jesus and this is gets access to a lot of these auction sites now, because they, like I say, have long lead times leading up to their sales, because they want to do publicity. Well, now they're letting him in and handling the guns, talking about the guns, particularly that are rare, to help promote up the auction. Free publicity for him. And he gets access to firearms that are otherwise hard to obtain, and also expensive, even if a lot of the collectors like to show off their collection and would allow him to do that. But traveling around the U.S. or around the world can be quite expensive. So to have a whole huge amount in one place of a big auction, as opposed to this guy has this other guy has this other thing, this other guy has 3 of these other things, or you got to travel all around. You go to one place, set up his filming stuff, and film a bunch of videos. So it is real good. And they some of the sellers have let him shoot their firearms, which of course, sort of, especially if they're not like pristine, never before fired, or hardly fired firearms, if they're good shape used, actually sort of helps you on the sale, because you can point to it. This gun works well. Well, okay, get back to it. He's constantly talking in this recently about how the Thompson submachine gun is really a World War I era gun. It's sort of out of date by World War II, blah, 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 blah. And looking at the Thompson submachine gun, yeah, it had the Blish principle, which is a principle that is patently not factual. The guy was mistaken on it. It's complicated to make, unnecessarily so, partially because of that Blish principle. And it is a machined, as opposed to stamped metal, it's machined metal submachine gun. And so he's talking about this. Well, so forget some of that. Yeah, it's machined, but it's still, and by the time you're seeing most of the World War II stuff, the Blish element is gone from the guns, most of them, the production. Well, but I could say that about most weapons used in World War II of the firearms, the guys that you carry, most of them are World War I style weapons. The Gewehr 98, okay, that's the K98K, which is the Karabiner 98 or 1898 Kurz for short. So yeah, it's a slightly shortened down. Instead of calling it a Gewehr or rifle, they're just sticking with the Karabiner thing, because it's sort of the short, and it's sort of the short carbine. So, but it's still fundamentally a World War I weapon. The U.S. still used lots of Springfield 1903. That's a pre-World War, also a pre-World War I weapon. Throughout World War II, and believe me, they used the Springfield throughout World War II. In the latter stages in active theaters for the U.S., it was either a specialty sniper rifle, or hey, these artillery guys over here that all they do is carry big heavy artillery shells and put them out down the barrel of the the gun. Oh, we have rifles for them. They're the old Springfields, if in case you need them, kind of thing. That's so they weren't a front line, except for the sniper weapons. For the U.S., they were no longer a frontline primary service weapon. They were the guys near the front line. Oh shit, we need a firearm. Also, of course, the other primary want to have, oh shit, we need a firearm, is the M1 carbine, and that's what it was designed and used for. But throughout the war, they continued to make the Springfield because they were giving them to other nations, particularly China, but other nations. So the U.S. was still doing that. And, the Mosin Nagant, the Enfield, I would go on and on and on. You got, to get away from that, you got like the U.S. have with the M1 Garand, or you have the, a lot of the light and medium machine guns. But even there, the 1919 Browning machine guns, those are World War I stuff. It's the Germans. They got newer. The Brits were still mostly using World War I or slightly updated World War I, except for the Bren gun. So a lot of stuff is still World War I. Now, a lot of the artillery stuff, and I say stuff because I mean the shells, I mean the barrels and the carriages, a lot of that has its development post World War I. And we can go back to, the French 75 of World War I was, is a pre-World War I design. It was revolutionary. But, America was still using those French 75s at the start of World War II. And they had a bunch of them. And, we need to build tank destroyers. Take those old, either made during World War I or made sort of post World War I, but in the early post, and stick them in half tracks. The French 75s in the half tracks for the American tank destroyers. The early American tank destroyers were mostly World War I guns stuck in there. And we're going to use that basic design for the American tank guns, the Grant/Lees and the Shermans use that same basic design. So obviously those are new made and made to fit in a tank and have changes, significant changes. But the cartridge, the whole, the projectile and the brass cartridge behind it, the whole thing is the same gun, is the same round, same dimensions, same that kind of thing. Okay, so what do you see improvements? For anti-tank rounds, they get more and more powerful, but they also have a lot more technology in their their projectile. I know this is a long way to get to where we were going, but mostly for artillery, things you shoot up, out, and over and land on that. Mostly there's not lots of changes for the guns, and I specifically at one point looked at the German 100 millimeters, 105, I think it's the 100 millimeter, sorry, just as a looked into details, because developments for Hearts of Iron 4 and how these are getting more and more and more, as you research the stuff, you get more powerful artillery. And I looked at that, and I came very much to the conclusion that the powerfulness of the artillery of Germany, this is just dealt with Germany, and German made things, they had one minor improvement to range by having a more powerful charge to within that. Yeah, they had also 150 and 170 millimeter guns, but within the 100 millimeter gun range, one improvement that marginally, in a minor sort of way, made the range longer by having a more of a charge behind it. They did that. That was the only improvement Germany did to actual firepower projection. Everything else for Germany during World War II was either to make the gun and carriage lighter to move it easier, that, or to make manufacture simpler and cheaper and quicker. That's the only improvements Germany did. So the guns would be more flexible. I guess artillery flexibility is where's artillery flexibility? Oh, here would be artillery flexibility as not a doctrine, but as a capability of the gun itself. So they improved its handling capabilities, in the environment, and made it cheaper to produce. That's all they ever did during from 39 to 45. One minor improvement to range. Everything else was to handling characteristics. So there really isn't, with artillery, lots of changes done during the war. America, leading up to the war, they're realizing there are 75s that are left over World War I stuff. It just got to be improved. And so, the British come up with a nice 25-pounder gun. A lot of that stuff happens in the interwar periods, and so it's sort of set by the start of the war. And I'm not saying that's true for all nations in all places, because obviously, like, France gets knocked out really early, so of course it is true for them. Japan, I just don't know. I don't know if specific improvements, and they had real, during the war they had real problems with. Let's do this. No, we still have more leadership. Okay. Real problems in production as it is, and mostly the stuff I've seen, at least in small arms where I know it better, is crappier and crappier production quality, and just leaving bits and pieces off the gun. They hardly even really did proper manufacturing simplifications, other than simply like, oh yeah, it used to be nice and smooth, now it's rough and ugly, and they never, they originally maybe polished it down. Now they leave the original ugly tool marks on the gun. We'll do the berthing since that takes the longest first. So Japan's simplification, leaving off the anti-aircraft sights off the rifles. Well, of course, the anti-aircraft sights on the rifles are useless. So you should leave them off, but that's just sort of a and other things that, they're dust covers that the Japanese soldiers didn't like. Those disappear too. I don't know how well they worked on the gun. Probably reasonably well, but I don't know how, keeping dust off. I'm not talking about how well they kept the dust off, but I don't really know how more likely you to have problems with your gun from dust or other debris getting into your bolt action rifle, and having that actually affect the functionality of your rifle. How effective, having soldiers do their thing with the dust cover on it, and having soldiers do it without. I don't know if it really made a real difference in actual field. But what the soldiers also didn't like about it is it rattled. And soldiers, when they're moving around, often like to be quiet. So, okay, AA ammunition advance, and that was, like I did say, was one of the things that did improve during the war, particularly the they also, I'm sure there's marginal improvements on timing fuses and other things for it, but the big thing, of course, was the proximity fuse. We'll do this one first because we have a lot more of these. Oh, that's 42. We can wait. Let's, partially because we're not at war yet, and although I think it will help things, I don't know again, in a practical way, how much will that affect the outcome either in any single individual battles or affect the outcome and overall in a campaign. Meaning, let's see what we have here. We have a strategic bomber and a fighter bomber and a naval bomber, which of course the AI very well may use just as a regular ground bomber. If these anti-air are a little more effective, I don't know if that's going to affect the outcome in this campaign. Not that they shouldn't use it, not that if they have enough it won't shatter some units, but I don't know if it would take too much more or less compared to the upgrade. Okay, gun position 4 engine airplanes has advanced. Good, and that opens up gun ability, which we were pushing for. And recon communications. Okay, all 42 technologies now. All right. I see a bunch of 40s, 41s. These guys, we have so little of it outside of infantry tanks and because so I think over here is actually where we have the infantry tank. I don't see it there though. It may be there, maybe I'm just missing it here. Maybe it's not even in any of these, I don't know. Yeah, let's do the 1940 technology first. And so some of the big things, of course, probably in some way the biggest thing that really develops in World War II is ease of production for weapons. This is one thing that I guess the Germans at some level realize, but they don't seem to follow through, and of course the Germans lose the war. Oh, cool. Oh, you're supposed to stop, I thought. Pop up and pause. Okay. Because we can see, particularly in German tanks, they continue to get more and more complicated to produce. But ease of production. And yes, the MG42 is stamped versus the MG34, which is machined. So they did realize, that's why I say they realized it at some level. And the last ditch rifles that they were trying to build and copies of the Sten gun that they were building at the very last stages of the war definitely took into account ease of production, and that's probably mostly due to those ladders to Albert Speer, but I don't know for sure. Not the designs, but the emphasis on that. But most everybody else is trying to get simpler and simpler things to produce, including the British do a more simplified version of the Enfield, and of course they do the Sten guns. Okay, American blueprints, acrylic bubble. I thought we were researching that ourselves. Yes, I think we were in a freed up one. So yeah, that still probably saved us a little bit of leadership. Let's come down here and continue to expand our capabilities in small warship. But that will help everybody out, having better vision around our fighter pilots. And having good quality weapons is a very useful thing. having weapons with bottle openers and you know, magnifying glasses built in on the rifle so you can read, or I don't know, whatever, might be an interesting idea, but don't, you know, don't really help to your victory. So if you can simplify production, we're still doing a small. Okay, gotta stop that. And yes, let's do light armor first because we got a fair amount of light armor. Not huge amounts, but some of that. But so but more simplified weapons, but having enough weapons is more important than having the best weapons. And so at peacetime, and if there aren't major changes to weapons technology, you can build up over peacetime, build up a lot of good weapons. But once war sort of breaks out, then you have, these are armored engineers upgrade. I think that is here. Okay, but we're going to stop it even if we can continue it. So I'm so much not against the idea of high quality production of weapon systems. Carrier group doctrine, very good. Okay, stop that. Well, and carrier crew training. Very good. Now we'll move this over to here. Just keep those new HQs and get the bonuses. Well, still looking at this, I think these probably need to attach some to a higher command here, but well, you can attach to the mountain motorized. He's full, so let's that's this guy here. Oh, lots of stuff just happened. No, we don't like that. We want to attach them to it. We'll create a better Japanese command. Okay, oil refining advance. Very, very useful. Refining efficiency. Here we go, 1944. And also steel production. Also very, very useful, as we may lose everything but the Soviet imports of steel and any major capabilities. Okay, battleship crew training. Also very useful. Oh no, it's down here. There we go. Stop that. And motorized engineers, which may still be going. No, that did gray out. Okay. Yeah, we'll do this, even though I only have one battalion of medium armor. We'll make it a decent battalion. Let's shift a lot of this over. There we go. Down to there. Okay, so mentioning, we have the Okay, so that is ours. Okay, so that first army group is ours. So we will attach you to the first army. There we go. We'll give you a I'll promote you up. So you look like a naval guy. I don't know. Don't know Japanese uniforms like I do German. And we'll also give this a commander. Okay. Okay, coal processing. Good. More energy, nice. Infantry support tanks, yes, those are the ones we have the most of. And that's grayed out, fine. And fuselage aerodynamics advance. Air systems, okay, well, let's look over here at more air systems. Yeah, we got a few of those, so we can 6, 9, I don't remember exactly how many of the fighter bomber prototype or fighter bomber types we have. We are doing that, and that's needed. It's not a bad idea to push forward on some of these. The reason I don't is twofold. One, because I'm here looking at this. Yeah, we'll do one of these. I also at the start of this episode put approximately, this is approximately 100 ICs in production. All of these from the pocket battleship down, I started that. And yeah, obviously these aren't being researched right now, but as we can see, these are all about ready to hit. I mean, not research, production. These are gonna in June here, in June, May, June, August. So pretty soon these are all gonna be, at least the great bulk of the stuff. So 3 pocket battleships, which are much cheaper than battle cruisers or battleships. So they're good, and they're fast too. They may not be great for battles, and not maybe as good as proper battleships. I'm sort of sure they're not. That's why I did build some, and we also started with some battleships. But what they are fast, so they can keep up with the fast carriers. So they don't have to slow down a carrier fleet and give it battleships to hopefully give good air additional air protection to the fleet, and surface fighting capabilities. So that's sort of why I'm doing those. And these I just thought, yeah, let's say everything does go fairly well and we don't lose our carriers currently in operations. It would still be nice to have more carriers at some point, but probably this will improve the range. So yeah, we'll go with that. But probably we will lose some, so best to have some, right now starting in production for sometime in maybe late 42 to come on. Because that's what happened, and again, some of it's my fault, and yeah, it might be worthy to replay some of it, but viewers are fickle. What happened in the last Japanese playthrough is all of my major surface fleet units got destroyed, and I was advised by some good friends, yeah, well, you can start rebuilding, get that going. And I'm thinking, yeah, but what is the U.S. going to be doing while I'm rebuilding? Building more stuff. And so even if I don't make the mistakes that I made before, I'm probably not going to win. And 2, people aren't going to want to watch me play that long, play a year's worth of in-game year's worth of time, which might just be a 3 weeks, or I don't know, maybe a lot less than that, maybe a couple of weeks for Hearts of Iron 4. But, you know, viewership is going down, and we had this series going, and too much Japan, too much at the time. So that's sort of why I bailed on it. And so, yeah, if I get all my surface fleet destroyed, and I didn't destroy theirs, you know, that, like I've talked before, that's sort of like, you know, and they're invading me, and, you know, major surface fleet action out here. We sink our fleet sunk, their fleet isn't, and they've just landed, you know, 20 divisions on, you know, there. Yeah, it's sort of like we're over. Especially if I don't have, you know, 20 good divisions at home in Japan ready to fight. So, but if I sink their fleet and sink my fleet, you know, both it's a Pyrrhic victory or even a Pyrrhic loss, Pyrrhic victory for them, you know, everybody's down, that's a different thing. You know, if my fleet sunk, their fleet sunk, okay, well, my fleet did its job. It sunk their fleet. Now, if I have nothing in production, well, it's going to be a long time before I can really do anything. But if I have things in production, then it'll be, yeah, that's just out in 2 months and 3 months and whatever, and we can carry on. So yeah, notice I do mean carry on, and okay, it was Blitzkrieg Doctrine, right? And Sherplunk Doctrine. And flying boat prototypes, which is probably grayed out, yes. Okay, back to here. Yeah, most everything that's not being researched is a 42. There we go. So this is not being fatalistic, because I think I might be able to take their fleet down. I'm hoping, planning on taking their fleet down. I just need to, shall we say, shape the battle fleet. These guys, these guys are HQ's too far away. These are looking at, and their HQ's too far away. I'll do some more reorganization, including one of the elite light infantry. And that's going to become their core, at least some of their core headquarters. That's getting ready for this sort of island hopping kind of thing or whatnot to get down to Hawaii. Looking at that. Okay, mountain unit training advance. Very good. Yeah, let's stop that. Cancel that. So, because when I am getting ready for the invasion of Hawaii and coming into here, I plan on having it escorted with a bunch of my carrier groups, whether directly as part of the same stack. Some of it will be in that case. Others will just simply be other units. And this is one thing I was warned about, and I agree about, is coordination. You know, against the Doom stack. And when the Doom stack shows up, and if it's fighting against a fairly small force, it'll just eat that force up, and then as more reinforcements come in the battle, it'll just keep eating those up. And so that's quite possibly very true. But if they don't have the Doom stack, you know, sitting here, or, you know, sitting in the ocean, or sitting in Pearl Harbor immediately, and I have 2 or 3 good strong carrier groups all heading, you know, out of the same port, all heading here in the same time, they might have slightly different speeds, but if they get here before the enemy has a chance to react to them, then that should be fine, because unlike Hearts of Iron 4, if you get them all in this same province, generally speaking, the different commands will combine to into the battle effectively, or maybe not, and it'll all be screwed up, and we'll learn that too. But we'll learn that together, and then we'll go back possibly to an earlier save and do a better job, because I'm very willing to jump back even a couple of episodes to a save and create a doom stack and then go in and try it, because I'm not going to end this series. And that's another thing, like I say, it's not like, oh, my ships are sunk, oh, you know, we're done. No, it's like, okay, well, that didn't work. Let's see if we put them in a doom stack. Oh, they're sunk. That didn't work. Let's see if we can get enough, you know, land base there, and along with the doom stack. And, you know, if after trying 2 or 3 things and they don't work, well, then we know it don't work and Japan's done. But if we can try and learn and experiment, that's sort of why I hope I am not the best player. I'm not even the best German player. But I think I'm a marginally good player. So hopefully we can learn things here by doing so. And you can learn to play better. Okay, mobile unit, combined arms has advanced. So you can, okay, I know that's 40, but we have none of these guys yet. And I don't know if we ever are going to get them. Let's do airborne training instead. Okay, we have a province lost. Yeah, let's send you to fight them and then come back and guard the port. Because I'd rather not lose the port. As you can see, this great stack here is way down. That's where most of the units came from that went to go after Pearl Harbor. We still have that. We still have a little bit there. And of course we have a lot of the units came here for Burma India Theater. Wing aerodynamics, very good. It's waiting on one of these, I think, to be able to unlock the next round there. Oh, and as I was saying about pushing ahead, you know, into 42 and beyond, oh, what's still camouflage designs we also got. Okay, that affects way too many units to have it show up, but we'll stop that. It's not necessarily bad. You can do the, oh, motorized support units. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. That's, yeah, we barely hardly have any of those, but we'll do some of these because we have a fair amount. Where was I? Motorized support units. Lost my train of thought. Something about units here. Oh well, never mind. Okay, well, I know I've talked a lot, but I hope this was an interesting episode. If you haven't already, please like the videos. I do appreciate that. And of course, just thanks for watching if you made it this far. And also, if you've made it this far and you haven't already, you better subscribe to this channel because you like it that much. And of course, I really love hearing from you. So please post your questions, comments, tips, corrections. See you next time for more Hearts of Iron.